Welcome everyone to episode 25 of the Average Ontario Anglers Fishing Podcast. 25. I know we haven't said this in a few weeks, but did you ever think we'd get to 25?
Well, Jesse, I don't think I did.
You know what? It seems,
Wait for laughter. Oh.
It seems like we've been doing this forever, but it's literally only been since February?
Yeah.
But that's a long time. We've been doing this every single week. And I don't think a lot of people understand how much time this involves, but we do appreciate you listening. And we've actually hit, it changes we record this 2 weeks before, but we just hit 24,000 downloads just on podcast, not on YouTube, which is amazing.
Yeah.
And we do get a lot of messages from you guys and girls saying that you enjoy it. So, hey, my advice to you would be keep listening and maybe good things are coming. But anyway, I thought we could do something pretty cool for this episode. This is one of the topics I feel like it's very relatable. Now, we're not going to be talking about spending $100,000 on a boat. We're actually going to talk to Andrew. We're going to interview Andrew, AOA Andrew, the guy right here with the mustache, about his tin boat build. And he did it uber budget.
Yes.
Super cheap. So we're going to talk about that because I know buying a boat is expensive. That's why I don't own one.
Yep. And to start a project is daunting.
It is daunting. So we're gonna talk about some of the tips and tricks Andrew has learned and that we've dealt with getting all the parts for this boat and how we fish out of it too. So before that though, just to whet your appetite for what's to come. But before we get into that, we're gonna have an interesting fishing fact as usual. And to handle that, we have the man with a mustache, Andrew.
So I was doing research a while ago.
Boring.
Yep.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, you might find it boring, to be honest. For me, I find history fascinating. So I was curious about the history of fish management in Ontario. Okay. Because we think of it when did regulations come around? I was I have no clue. When did we have our rules and regulations you have to follow now, but that wasn't always around.
Yeah.
It's what, and we were talking a while ago, we were fishing this past weekend, and it's I would love to see if humans had never messed around with stocking lakes, with damming up rivers and stuff like that. What would the Ontario fisheries look like today if if it was an untouched land up to right now, or if I could travel back in time to the 1750s and fish Canada waters, what would it be like?
That's interesting.
So I'm going to be reading a lot because I want to be accurate. This is from Ontario.ca website.
Oh, so you didn't build a time machine and go back in time and tell us?
Well, I can't get an A+ every time, Jesse. Okay. So I'm only average.
Fair.
So I'll be reading some paragraphs through this. I'll try and read it in an interesting way. Be European exploration. So, European exploration of what is now Ontario began early in the 17th century. So, at the time, it was described as an abundance of fish and wildlife, which appeared to be inexhaustible. It's back in the 17th century. This sentiment was later shared by many of Ontario's early settlers. River, lake, stream, and brook teemed with fishes. That was from Gourlay in 1896. So they developed the fur trade, fishing. They started trading with the indigenous people in the land, stuff like that, making the peace treaties, which, I won't touch that. So between 1800 and 1850, settlement of Ontario was well underway, particularly in the south. Early settlements followed waterways, the St. Lawrence, the Ottawa Rivers, Great Lakes, and inland waterways. They're still the most built-up areas in Ontario. Upper Canada, the population between 1830 and 1833, the population of Upper Canada increased by 50%. Most of the treaties were signed with First Nations during this period of time. It was also during this period that human impacts on fisheries and aquatic resources were first recognized. This is 1830. They're already seeing, we're having an impact.
Yeah.
So land was cleared, dams and sawmills were constructed on many Great Lakes tributaries, and canals were being constructed. Subsistence fishing by both First Nations people and non-Aboriginal fishers was important. So there were reports in the book was written then. So the early accounts of the Crees and Ojibways, they were starving to death during winters because of the overfishing already back then.
Wow.
significant portions of the catches that were being made weren't being eaten. They were being traded or sold. So all the fish, it's ridiculous. So it starts getting commercial. It became established during this period, which again is 1830 to 1833. Commercial fishing has started in Ontario. Also at this time, pollution, overexploitation, and dams blocking spawning streams, Atlantic salmon started to display declines in some portions of Lake Ontario. In response, the first laws were enacted to prevent overexploitation, and artificial fish propagation, like stocking, was developed in the widely held belief that fish stocking could counterbalance the combined effects of pollution, overfishing, and loss of spawning grounds. Commercial fisheries grew rapidly and fishing techniques improved dramatically during the period from 1850 to the 1900s. By mid-1890s, more than 12 million yards of gillnet were licensed for Ontario waters.
Sketchy.
Like, no wonder like the Atlantic salmon went depleted, because that was the main fish they were doing. They used to sell them salted by the barrel full. Like all of them. Like, it was crazy.
Little side note about that. I remember looking up some information about Atlantic salmon in Duffin's Creek.
Mm-hmm.
And they said that there were so many of them back in the day that you could walk across their backs.
Yeah.
That's how many were coming in to spawn in the streams.
Yeah.
And now literally you might see like...
The lake was lousy with them.
Yeah.
Originally.
Now there's like none.
So Atlantic salmon had been extirpated in Lake Ontario, so completely gone, by 1890s.
They were all gone.
They were all gone.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't even the 1900s and we already outfished an entire species out of Lake Ontario. Like, that blows my mind. So commercial fisheries had intensified on lake whitefish with improved gear and technology. From a fisheries perspective, the period from 1860 to 1900 was focused largely on fish culture, led by the efforts of Samuel Wilmot. Stocking of hatchery-reared fish, including several non-native species such as rainbow trout, common carp, and Chinook salmon, increased. So again, this is still pre-1900. They're already stocking non-native fish into the waters in Ontario. So like, how much has changed just from that, right? Transfers of bass were also initiated in many inland waters. We talked about that before. Bass are everywhere up here, and they never were before. Increasing concerns over the declining status of many fisheries led to the formation of the first Fish and Game Protective Associations, and in 1890, a special Fish and Game Commission was established to determine the status of game and fish in the province. So that's kind of the first time like really big conservation efforts started to happen. But again, we think of like back then, fishing was so easy back then. By 1890, they saw the need we need to have regulations and laws because we've ruined this already.
Yeah.
The other thing, I'll skip a little bit here. If you want to read more of it, again, this is all just on the Ontario.ca website. I found it fascinating. The period from 1900 to 1950 may best be known for the continued deterioration in water quality of the lower Great Lakes and the introduction and spread of several invasive species, notably American smelt and sea lamprey throughout the Great Lakes. As well, lake herring stocks had collapsed in Lake Erie, and the American eel had been extirpated from the waters of Algonquin Park. So again, Algonquin Park used to have American eel. It got outfished out of like the whole park. Like, how do you do that? I don't even know how it's possible. And again, I thought lamprey were more of a recent like introduction. I didn't realize it was from back in the early 1900s either. The last thing I want to read here, or that I will read here, I want to read a bunch more. But the last thing, so during the World Wars, there's a relaxation of conservation efforts because they were focused on the war efforts. So fisheries management efforts during this period were directed largely to addressing overexploitation and attempting to enhance resident fisheries. What did they do? Fish stocking and transfer programs were expanded, and several deliberate introductions of non-native species. They give examples: brown trout, Kamloops trout, which is the rainbow trout, walleye in Kawartha Lakes. They were never there before. Bass in northern Ontario. They were never there before. Like, again, stuff we take for granted. And that's why I was talking to you before. Like, imagine these lakes that we're fishing, that we're going for walleye, going for smallmouth, going for largemouth. If we had never interfered with it, we'd be up there catching like perch and muskie. That's it. Northern pike, the odd lake. Like,
yeah,
it blows my mind like how these lakes would have been without us intervening.
Yeah,
it can't be changed now. But, it puts in perspective a little bit when everyone's like, oh, there's invasive species and oh, look at this coming. Like, yeah, it's a concern. But at the same time, look what we did.
Yeah. They're all invasive species.
Yeah. So I just found like I never knew the history of that many different species that were introduced by man into these lakes. Like, I took it for granted as they're native to the area. They're absolutely not.
Yeah.
And it now they become established. They are the normal now. But I never knew that much like stocking programs and stuff like that took place so early in the history of like the fisheries management in Ontario. So anyways, I found that interesting.
That is interesting. It's funny too, because like my grandpa, he's in his mid-90s. He's very, very old. And he still tells me every time I talk to him, he's like, oh yeah, he always tells me the story about how him and my grandma used to go smelt fishing.
Yeah.
Back, like I'm talking like when
he's in huge umbrella
20
rigs
years
with, like,
old.
100
Yeah.
hooks.
So literally like 70 plus years ago when they first got married. They actually just had their 73rd anniversary. So shout out to my grandparents. But anyway, they used to go smelt fishing, and they said, oh yeah, like, they'd all be out there smelt fishing, like hundreds of people, and they'd just be filling up because there was no rules or anything.
Yeah.
And then he's like, oh, do they still do that? I'm like, not really. You guys ate them all. But it is interesting because you have to think, like someone like my grandpa's age or your grandpa's age, there was no salmon in the Great Lakes back then.
Yeah.
Like that was something that they saw introduced. And now we're like, oh, like people might think, oh, there's been salmon here the whole time. There hasn't.
No.
They brought them here.
Yeah.
That's why you see huge Chinook salmon in these creeks, and you're like, why are they so big in these tiny creeks? It's because they're not supposed to be here. They were supposed to be in British Columbia in these massive, rivers.
Yeah.
But yeah, humans have really messed things up. But hey, if I can catch bass and walleye now,
yeah,
I can't complain too much.
Yeah.
I will
Make
give
the
that a
best of
good
it.
rating because history is important because we have to learn from our history to learn from our mistakes.
Yep.
So if the Ontario fisheries is thinking of bringing any weird species into Ontario now, I'm going to say no.
Like commercial fisheries. Hey, you want to put 1 million miles of kilometers or whatever of gill nets out in the lakes? I'm like, that sounds like a great idea. Like, my goodness.
Anyway, yeah, that was interesting. I like that. And if you're a history buff, you probably really like that.
And if you hated school, you unsubscribed.
So we're just going to use this opportunity quick to have a little update on our podcast. So this is our 25th episode, like we mentioned. The podcast has been going fantastic. We do appreciate everyone's reviews. There has actually been a lot of interesting reviews on Apple. I know on Spotify you can just give like a star review. That's it. But on Apple, if you listen on Apple, you can actually type out a review. We read them all. They're pretty funny. And the YouTube comments, we get messages on Instagram. We do appreciate everyone listening. Again, we do have a Patreon set up if you'd like to support the cost of running the show every week to help us put a dent in it. There are a few people already that are doing that, so we appreciate that. But we're going to get into the main topic right now. Also, Patreon link in the bio. Ooh, show notes. But we're going to get into the main topic of budget boat builds.
Yes.
And boats are expensive.
That's putting it lightly.
Okay. We're not talking about like going to the store and buying like a brand new bass boat. We're just talking about any boats. And it's just a quick story. I went to the spring boating show this year, and me and my wife were looking around, and like, again, I grew up fishing out of canoes, kayaks. I have a flat back canoe right now. We fish small lakes. I've always wanted to get a bigger boat. And by a bigger boat, I mean literally like a 16-foot tenor would be great. That would be like a huge upgrade for me. Same with Andrew. Like we grew up just fishing small like canoes and stuff. So I went to the spring boating show, and I always have my eyes open for like little boats.
Big boat fishing experience was either my dad's boat, which is not geared for fishing at all, or a 12-foot tenor at the cottage.
Yeah.
We're like, you can stand.
Yeah. But it's insane. And I don't want to sound like, oh, we're so poor, but like the way the economy is nowadays, for most people, especially if you live in the GTA, buying a boat is a big,
for the average angler,
yeah.
It's not accessible.
And I went to the boat show and I was looking, and they had some setups. It was like, 14-foot tenor with a 20 horse on a trailer, and it was like legit $14,000-$15,000 brand new. And I'm like, for that? That's a lot of money. Like, oh my goodness, so overpriced. And I know a lot of people will be like, you don't buy a new boat. It's a huge ripoff. And I agree with that 100%.
Yep.
So we're going to kind of talk about how to build a boat on the cheap.
Yes.
If you're cheap, just if you don't have the budget for it. Not a lot of people, like some people are like, oh yeah, I'm rich. I can buy whatever boat I want. That's amazing. Good for you. Mm-hmm. For the average person, we're going to talk about how to build a boat on the cheap. Because what's the total for your boat right now? Roughly.
So I figured this out. the total for the boat, excluding my most recent purchase of the trolling motor,
Okay.
was $1,200.
Okay. Add the trolling motor.
It was $3,300.
So okay.
So
that's
the
cheap.
trolling motor cost as much as everything else I've already put into that boat to date.
Yeah. So we're gonna start off with a brief
I
story
was
about
very fortunate
Andrew's
with how I
boat.
got stuff.
Yeah, we got stuff and
Yeah.
we're not saying like this is going to happen to you, but again, I'm always on Kijiji and Facebook Marketplace looking at boats, and like sometimes you can find a good deal. It'll be like, some old lady selling her husband's boat who died, and you're like, oh, that's too bad, and she's selling a boat for like $5,000 on a trailer, good motor, everything, and it's like that's a good deal. I'd rather buy a boat like that, even if it's a little older, for $5,000 than go to buy a brand new boat for like 20.
Yeah.
That's almost the same thing. So buying a used boat, as long as it floats, you're good.
Buy something for $5,000. You can take it to a marina if you want. They'll do a once over on the engine, tune it up, and you can put some epoxy on the hull if there's a leak. So that's for an extra $1,000, let's say. To get it fixed up in tip top shape now, you paid $6,000 for something that's ready to go.
Yeah. So we're gonna tell you the story about how we built Andrew's boat. So long story short, one of my buddies found a boat on Kijiji or Facebook Marketplace, and it was an old 14-foot tinner. It had 2 holes in it, 2 like gashes, 2 gashes in it. Long story short, he actually ended up moving away. So I said to him, like, if you don't, like, obviously you're not going to take the boat with you, because he moved actually like to the West Coast. So he's like, yeah, you know what? I had a bunch of extra tools. So he's like, give me a bunch of tools and I'll give you the boat. So it ended up, I gave him about $350 worth of tools, and he gave me the boat. So we picked it up. Mm-hmm. So the boat was $350, which for a 14-foot tinner, it had 2 holes in it, but in general,
it had 2 holes.
It was in
all
trash.
of the wood was rotted.
It was
the
a
only
write-off.
thing that's good on this boat is the fact that it's aluminum, and the aluminum wasn't rotted. That's the only stuff that's usable.
So even with all those issues, I feel like $350 wasn't bad,
considering that everything else I could find that I was looking to get a boat. My timeline got pushed up ahead only because good deals happened to come my way. I was very fortunate with that, because I was going to save up for a full year and try and find something online and get something for between $3,000 and $5,000 and fix that up. Mm-hmm. So with a boat like that, anything else similar, I was looking at $500 for something that, again, I needed fully rebuilding, and I had to figure out how to transport it from Muskoka down. Like it was ridiculous. So to get something like that, very fortunate.
Yeah. And again, since we live in, say, the city, quote unquote, in the GTA, the prices of boats are way inflated compared to like if you buy something up north. Up north, I'll always see boats and it'll be like a good deal, like $600-700 on a trailer and all this stuff, but it's literally 8 hours away. Yeah. And if it's in the GTA, it's like the same thing for $800 is like $3,000.
If you have friends or family, if you are looking to get a boat, if you have friends or family that have a cottage or live up north, let them know, have them keep an eye out for you, because chances are, by word of mouth or some guy parking it on the front lawn, it's not posted online. Yeah. It's not anything like that. That's going to be your best deal.
100%.
So if you can put the word out, word of mouth, or if you are going on a trip up north, take a look at what's around, because you might be fortunate enough to find something like a good deal up there.
Yeah.
Chances are get a better one there than you will, like Jesse says, down
in the
here.
city. Yeah. That being said, so we got the boat, and our buddy threw it on the back of his trailer. We had like a little dump trailer. We brought it to my shop, my workshop at work, and we put that boat. It was funny because my shop has an 8-foot wall around it. It's just in the back of a warehouse, and we leaned it up against the shelving, the metal shelving, and it sat there for months. Yeah. And I was like, Andrew, like
you'd look and you just see like the top like 6 feet of a boat,
and it was constantly in my way. I was like, oh, I gotta move this stuff, I gotta move this boat, and it was sitting there, and I was like, we got the boat in like February. And Andrew's like, let's get it out for pike season, in April, and that quickly passed, and I was like, this thing's in the way, and we started to work on it. So the first thing we did,
I got it just for clarification on when I got it out. The first trip I had it out in was June. I was out for June for pike. Because it was still before bass season. And we kind of amended it. Okay, we have to get ready for bass season. We have to have it by summer. So while the boat was there, I also had a workmate. Now the story of how he got the motor, I'm gonna give him a shout out actually, because he always mentions it. He's like, oh, I'm gonna he's gonna be I forget what he calls himself, is like the redneck motor guy or something like that. He's like, oh yeah, it's brought to you by Matt's Motors. So Matt, my workmate, he did a job, and a guy had this old motor, his old Mercury, sitting in the garage, and Matt's like, what are you doing with the motor? The guy's like, oh, it's yours. It's just sitting there. It ran like 3 years ago, but if you can carry it out, you can have it. So Matt lifted this motor, dragged it out to his truck, and dropped it in the truck. That was his tip for doing that job.
Nice.
That's awesome. So he did nothing with that motor. He had it for a year, I think, or almost a year. And then I said, look, I just got a boat. I need something to put on it. I need a motor. And I know you got one a while ago. I will buy it as is. He hadn't tried to start it, nothing. I'm like, I'll just buy it as is. I'll try and get it running.
Yeah.
So I think originally it was going to be like $150. And then he's like, oh, I didn't realize that it had like damage to the skeg. The prop was like completely chotched. He's like, you know what? I'll knock it down. I think I got it for 120. For a
20 horsepower. Yeah.
For a 20 horsepower motor, an old Merc 2-stroke. And as we brought it into the shop, so first thing I did was see if I can get it going. See if it will start. I know that I'm going to have to change the impeller, so I'm not worried about running it dry for half a second.
Yeah.
I just want to see if this thing will turn over at all, or what kind of work has to go into it. So we fired it up, and this thing has I bought a fuel can. The fuel can and hose cost as much as the motor.
Yeah.
Like brand new. I bought them brand new. So anyways, we hooked it up. I just put on a barb fitting because it didn't have a fuel connection on it. So I just like jury-rigged this connection so there's fuel going to it. Original spark plugs that were in there.
Yeah.
I pulled this thing probably like 10, 15 times. Like, it's not starting. A guy, he's like, oh, it's not going? I'm like, no, like, I know what's going on. He like looks to the side, turns the switch on. I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
So I think it was a total, with the switch actually now ready to go, I think it was 10 pulls. And this thing turned over.
Yeah.
It hadn't ran in now 4 years. Like, hadn't seen water, nothing. So the fact that it turned over with this old gas, I was like, this is amazing. And it idled for a little bit and then just died. So I'm like, okay, but at least there's compression. We've got spark. It can run.
Yeah.
Perfect.
And that being said, this motor is originally in rough shape. It looked like it was in rough shape. So we were kind of like, I don't know if it's going to start.
There's zip ties all throughout it and stuff like that. There's bits of broken plastic.
It's an old 2-stroke though. So.
Yeah, like this thing's been around. So it took a while. I couldn't, the sticker on it, there's no model number for it because the sticker's gone. Nothing was stamped in. I finally figured out by looking at a couple parts on it and the design of it, talking with some marinas, it's an 89. It's an 85. The flywheel is stamped with the year 84. Okay. So it's either an 85 or 86 because it is a 20 horsepower and it's they had a different size motor otherwise. And so like just by the carb and all that stuff. So took a while to figure out exactly. That flywheel helped a lot to narrow down the date range. So it's either an 85 or 86 Mercury 2-stroke, 20 horsepower. So then I could get the fuel pump for it. So I got the fuel pump. We hooked it up to a hose. Got that running to the earmuffs on it, and turned out the carb just needed some adjustment. Then it ran on idle. It runs rough. It's an old motor.
It's rough. It
sounds like a Harley.
Yeah,
but it runs. So now I had a boat that has no seats in it that I rotted out, and a motor that I think runs.
Yeah.
So it's still, we haven't gotten out on the water yet. So what we did, there was 2 big gashes in the side.
Yeah.
We shone a light through because a guy had tried to weld it together.
Terribly so.
And so we're like, okay, we'll shine a light, and you're seeing like light coming through this massive crack. We're like, well, that's not going to hold water.
Yeah.
And I think what happened was he tried to like fire it up onto, like from the water, bring it back onto the trailer. And it's about 2 sides of a 2x4. And I just don't think the trailer was in the water enough, so it came on and just punctured the hull on both of those rails. That's what I think happened. It's the only thing that kind of makes sense.
It's the same spot on both sides.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's the same size as a 2x4.
Yeah.
So what we did was we cleaned up the area, and we got some marine epoxy.
Yeah.
And we epoxied the inside and the outside of it. And we put it in the water. We put on, I bought some marine grade plywood from a local lumber store. And we traced out the seats. We put new seats on just to get it on the water. Because at this point, too, I had plans by the end of the summer, I'm going to have this thing decked, carpeted. I'm going to have rod locker. I'm going to have all the stuff set up on it. And that did not happen that first year.
Oh.
I'm really glad it didn't. Because what happened was my whole plan for having it decked, the way the deck would be laid out, would not have worked. So anyways, once we got the wood on, we put it in the water. I took my brother-in-law out. We went fishing. And I had a Sharpie with me to mark any leaks. Jesse's like, bring a Sharpie with you. If any of the rivets leak, you can circle them. We'll come back. We'll epoxy them.
Yeah.
So I put it in the water. We were on the water for like 6 hours that day. Not a single drop came into that boat.
Yeah.
Oh, it was amazing.
Yeah. It's a good boat.
Yep.
Solid. Except for those 2 gashes. Like, I'm actually surprised because we used JB Weld Marine.
Yep.
And I had a few guys be like, oh, that's not going to be strong enough. It's like, it literally bonds at like 2,000 pounds per like.
Yeah.
And it's flexible too.
Yep.
And we've run that thing over like some pretty rough water.
Yep.
It doesn't leak at all.
I have zero complaints about that JB Weld stuff.
It's amazing.
It has worked.
Yeah.
I also keep a spare tube of the wet or
Putty?
it's I can't remember. It has a specific name. It is marine grade, but it's designed for like wet surfaces.
Yeah.
And so I have that. What's cool about that one is it's not rated as high of a like pressure rating as the marine standard one, but you can put on a wet surface. So let's say I'm running around in a back lake. I have that with me, and I bashed onto a rock and I split my hull, or or puncture it somehow. I can drag that boat up on shore, roll a log underneath the front end of it. I can patch it even with it wet, and then it sets enough to be riding on it in 2 hours, and it fully cures, I think, in 18. Something like that. So in 2 hours, that means if I puncture my hull out in a back lake and I can't get back to the boat launch, I can run it up on shore somewhere, patch it, and at least in 2 hours, I can get it back to the boat launch.
Yeah.
So
Good
that's
stuff to have.
100%.
I have the same stuff for my Sports Pal because my Sports Pal canoe is very thin aluminum, really thin, probably like 3 times thinner than your boat. So it's good to have just in case, especially if you're camping or in your back lake and you hit a rock and just punch a hole in the front.
Yeah.
It's like, well, what are you going to do now? So at least you can fix it.
Yep.
But I'd also like to mention too, so we also had to replace the transom.
Yep. So the seats,
full
transom.
transom.
What I did was too, so the old transom was like a small, just the triangle on the back kind of thing. And in the center of the back, inside and out. So what I did was I got, it's 3/4 inch marine grade plywood. I did a full transom across the whole back. And I just came down a bit lower around the motor. And I also did a full transom on the inside. So I did a full like double transom inside and out because I wanted that thing like secure.
Yeah.
Because I also knew with a 20 horsepower, I'm actually
overrating
for that boat. So I wanted to make sure it was like super secure. There are corner caps that I made sure were solid. I refastened them and secured them to make sure that it wasn't going to be twisting against that hull. I've had no issues with like that motor pushes that boat fast, but I am not concerned at all about it doing any damage to the boat. Or the torque and stuff on it.
Speaking of that, so again, I don't know if we mentioned this. It's a 14-foot. It's not a wide body. It's a 14-foot 14-foot boat with flat bottom.
Yep.
What speed can you hit with that 20?
40 kilometers an hour.
40 kilometers an hour, and that's fast.
That's with 2 guys in the boat, all the fishing gear,
all loaded up, and that's literally like a pop can of a boat when he's flying. So when the water's flat and he hits like 40. It's insanely fast. Like speed on the water is way faster than it feels like when you're driving.
Yeah.
But if it's rough and he's punching it, man, that boat, it's uncomfortably fast. Like just hitting the water. But that thing, the first time he took me out on it, and he's just like, all right, hang on. I wasn't expecting it to go that fast, but it went way faster than I thought.
Yeah.
Because the average speed that I found, so say with a 14-foot boat, for my research, if you put a 9.9 on a 14-foot boat, that's underpowered. It'll still push.
Yep.
You're probably going to hit,
you're not going to plane
25 kilometers an hour. You probably have a hard time planing. If you put a 15 on, you're going to hit low 30s-ish. And again, this depends on a lot of factors.
Yep.
So don't message us and be like, oh, I hit this speed with that motor.
Yeah.
But if you have a 20 on the back, you're going to hit high 30s to 40. And it has literally just been a time saver. Because like, again, we usually fish in the Sports Pal with a little 2.5 horsepower.
Yeah.
Our top speed is 11 kilometers an hour. We can literally go max speed through a no wake zone.
Yeah.
And only speed by 1 kilometer. But we can fly to spots now and just, go up to that spot, and just zoom around the lake.
Especially for muskie, because there's one spot we like to hit, and it takes, for us to get there in the Sports Pal, it was taking us an hour.
And that's a big waste of time.
And now we can get there in my boat in 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy how much, that can save on time.
All right, so here's some questions. So
Yep.
if you were gonna buy, I know you got a really killer deal on your motor, and it's been reliable so far. Hasn't stranded us at all.
At some point, we have to talk about the trailer. Well, we'll talk about that briefly, but
Okay.
that's another big component.
So say you picked up a used boat on Kijiji or something like that, $500, $600, whatever, and you're gonna get a motor. What are you gonna look for? Where are you gonna look? Kijiji?
I'd look on Kijiji. It depends on what you're like. If you are mechanically inclined or not, that's a big thing.
This is a good warning.
Yeah. If you want something that you don't have any, you're not mechanically inclined, and you just like, I want to go in there and start it. Buy something that's you can afford, that's new
Or newish, or very new.
very new-ish,
Like 5 years old.
Go to a marina, find something that like they have some used motors and stuff there too. It's not some of the northern marinas especially, but find something that is very new and reliable, because you're probably not going to have issues with it.
Yeah.
And chances are, if there is something, let's say it is new, it's under warranty, you're going to take it to marina to get repaired. If you are mechanically inclined, there's something real special about finding the old two-strokes, especially with the smaller horsepower motors.
They push a lot faster.
They have way more torque.
Yeah.
Way more. So you're out of that hole when you punch it. Like, it hops up on plane a lot quicker than a four-stroke of the same horsepower rating.
Yeah.
And two-strokes are really easy to maintain because they have the oil mixed into the fuel. It doesn't take it. I have a bottle that tells you the mixture for, this much gas, and you put this much oil in the bottle, and it tells
easy.
you the mixture, and you pour it in. Dead simple.
Yeah.
Don't like it's the math is non-existent for it anymore.
And I think there's like a stigma that it's complicated to find the ratios. It's literally not.
Super
it's
easy.
Not.
Yep. And so if you're not scared to be working on the motor, we dropped the whole bottom end on mine.
Yeah.
Replaced the water pump, and
in my workshop.
I bought a book. I watched some YouTube. It wasn't bad at all. It was easy to do it.
YouTube is your friend. You can learn how to fix like I'm a handyman.
Yep.
You can learn how to fix anything from YouTube. YouTube University.
Yeah. There are some things that, if I can't troubleshoot the best, but I'll do research online, like, now I figured out what that is.
And two strokes are very simple.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they're a lot less complicated there's a lot less valves, a lot less stuff in the internals of the motor to go wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So they're easy to work with. So that would be my recommendation if you're looking, and you're going to save a lot of money getting a used two-stroke.
Yeah.
And a lot of guys will tell you get like an old Mercury or something, they're bulletproof.
Yeah.
Like you can run those things into the ground. That's my plan.
Yeah. Now on the other side, as much as a two-stroke is cool and they're really torquey, I like a four-stroke. Mine's a four-stroke, super good on gas.
Quieter.
Very quiet. They're a little heavier compared to an old two-stroke. Like the old two-strokes, like I've seen guys that have a little like 4 horsepower two-stroke, and it's smaller than my 2.5.
It's like a 2-liter pop bottle with a shaft coming down.
Yeah.
Yep.
And they're a lot better for the environment, like cleaner. They don't just have like black smoke shooting out the back.
Yeah.
But again, I'm the kind of guy that if I bought a boat, I don't care about the boat. If it floats, that's good enough for me. Mm-hmm. I would rather buy, just for my peace of mind, a brand new motor.
Yeah.
And I know, like, it's a ripoff to buy a brand new motor, but like for my peace of mind, I've been with so many, it hasn't happened with Andrew yet, but I've been with so many people over the years where I'm fishing out of someone's, tinner with an old motor, like an old Johnson or something. We get stranded. It's happened to me multiple times. Yeah. And twice with the same guy. It's like we're in Rice Lake, like like way far away from the launch, and his motor won't start. And he's like, oh dang, and just pulling. It's like, what are we gonna do? We can't paddle back. There's no one out to pull us back.
Yeah.
That to me is terrifying. Like it's just like, man.
I borrowed a motor at the cottage one time, and I had to try and I did a MacGyver repair about like 3 kilometers. I did my one big trip that I do, and I went all the way upstream, and I had to do a MacGyver repair 3 kilometers away from the cottage. Thankfully, it's upstream,
so you could slowly drift down.
I drifted down a fair ways, probably 1 kilometer before I got that motor running again, and even then, it would run for like 5 minutes and then cut out. I had to like let it. I think it was flooding the engine, and it was messed up. The carb was messed on it. So trying to fix it on the water, that sucks.
Yeah,
I've been very fortunate with my motor.
It's been reliable. Another story too. I went out with this guy, and he bought this used motor, and he was pulling the string, like pulling the pull cord, and it snapped off in his hands. And he was just like, "Well, we're screwed." He ended up fixing it. I was like, "Okay." But I think the moral to this part of the motor thing is, if you're a handy person, get a used motor 100%.
Yep.
Like, it's a good deal,
Yeah.
and they're fairly easy to work on. Like, if you have to replace the impeller or just basic stuff like, I have to, replace the carburetor, it's not that complicated to do.
Yep.
If you have a socket set and a bunch of tools, you're fine. If you have somewhere to work on it, it's fine. If you're the kind of person that's like, I just want to buy something that, it's plug and play, just put on my boat, pull the thing, or have electric start, buy something newer.
Yeah. And the thing is, like with yours, because it's a 4-stroke, you have to do oil changes on it. Now, again, it's not like the car. I have to do an oil change every 3 months. Like the amount even we use it for.
I do
like
one oil
once
change a year.
Yeah. The good thing with me is my year-end maintenance is I bring my motor inside. That's done. Maintenance is done.
Well, you have to change
I'll change the gear lobe.
The gear oil.
Gear lube.
So motors, a lot of people will tell you, like, man, motors are just a money pit. They are, but you need it.
Yeah.
You don't want to have a
Saves my
tin boat
back.
and just paddle it. So anyway, that's the motor. And again, if you're looking at a small tin boat, a 9.9 is a great motor because you don't have to register the boat.
Yeah.
Which is amazing. If you get a 20 or 15 even, you got to register it. And there's a lot of lakes, not in this area particularly, but even like some, like in Algonquin Park, there's a lot of lakes that are like limited at 9.9. So if you get a bigger motor, you can't fish those lakes. So that may be something to consider. Hey, you know what? It's always good to have more power. It's better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it.
More power, baby.
Yeah. So if you have a 14-foot boat and a 9.9, you're probably going to wish you got the 15 or 20. You know what I mean? You're just like, I can't get up on plane. It's a little bit slow. But sometimes if you get the bigger motor, if you want to fish these smaller lakes, you're like, I wish I got the 9.9. So really consider that.
Yep.
Or just do what I do and have a 2.5 and just go really slow all the time. Okay, so about the trailer.
So at this point I have the boat, I have a motor, and I'm like, I need somewhere to transport it. I need to get it out of Jesse's shop.
Because my boss was like, that thing has to leave. And I'm like, I'm hounding him.
Yeah.
He won't pick up the phone.
So we installed it. I didn't have a hitch in my car, so I bought a hitch, installed it myself. Jesse and I, we did that in
Just a bolt
driveway
on.
at home. Yeah.
Yeah.
We bolted on. My car was ready for the accessory of a hitch. So that worked out well. And I'm like, now I have the hitch. I need a trailer. So I was talking with another workmate of mine, and he works for another company that our companies work with together on some jobs. He's like, you know what? I have a 16-foot aluminum that's on a 14-foot trailer, and I need to get a bigger trailer. He said, what I'll do is I have some money that I've been saving up for a larger trailer. If you pay me the difference of what I need to get the trailer I want, which he already had lined up as well, he's like, you can have mine. So I'm like, okay, like let me see the trailer. Sends me pictures, and he's like, oh, just come by my place. He lives like 2 minutes away from me. Which I'm like, okay, this isn't Muskoka, right?
Perfect.
So it lives 2 minutes away. I go look. It's a galvanized steel trailer. It's got buddy bearings, which if you don't know what those are, it's just the grease nipples on the outside, so you can just pull the cap off, grease it up, and you can see when it's full. It's super easy maintenance on it. Single axle. It's just for a 14-foot tinner.
It's a super wide trailer, though. It has steps on the side.
It has steps over the wheel wells. It has a spare tire holder. It had 2 brand new tires on rims. It had everything I needed.
It was a killer deal.
I was like, it had brand new lights, recently wired. Like, this is amazing. And I got it for $650.
Which is, for that trailer,
so,
dirt cheap.
Again, to put that in perspective, when I was looking for this, it was 2021. When I was looking for a trailer. I think it was 2021.
Yep.
And the cheapest thing I could find was $800, and it was 3 hours away. It says needed work. You have to fix on site and tow it yourself. So like, what am I going to do? Drive 3 hours with something that I hope I have the right ball hitch for. I hope I have the right tools. I hope there's a part supplier around there that I can fix it in this guy's lawn, and it's rotted out. And now I have to fix the whole trailer. But this is ridiculous. Like, trailers were insane. So the trailer I bought, I could have easily flipped it if I wanted to for double the price. Like, instantly, I could have sold that thing.
Yeah.
So to get that deal, again, super fortunate. So now I'm still under $1,000. I have a trailer for $650, the boat, which was $350, and the motor was like $100, $120.
Yeah, dirt cheap.
It's like for $1,000 now, I have. And put new wood on the boat. I had something that I could launch. I was out on the water fishing, and just fast. With that, and fast.
Yeah.
So it all worked out really, really well. I'm so fortunate.
We're not saying you'll get the exact same deal, but I think the thing too is, like Andrew said, ask around.
Yep.
because I find this with anything, with getting jobs, with, getting deals.
Mm-hmm.
People that know you, or you're like, oh, I know this guy who knows this guy who has a boat. You get way better deals than if you're just talking to random people on like Kijiji and Facebook. Yeah. I find, but so that it was a long process though. Yeah. All this work was over probably like 4 or 5 months.
Yeah, and the other thing what you built too is because I mounted the trolling motor on the back, and it was really annoying to have a trolling motor on the back of the boat. I'm like, I want a bow mount, but I couldn't afford the motor at the time.
Yeah.
So you're using Jesse's trolling motor. You unscrew the one set screw in the front. You swap the head around, the handle.
Yeah.
And so now it's pointing.
So it would pull the boat around.
Yeah. And so we took some angle iron, we took some plywood, and jury rigged up a bow mount.
A sketchy bow mount, yeah.
And I didn't realize how sketchy it was until I actually got my bow mount trolling motor, and I'm like, this thing's rock solid. That last one was sketchy.
Yeah.
So the issue with it, and going back, I would have designed it a little differently. But because it was just essentially made a small transom on the front of the bow, we had to put like extra screws in to hold it, because as soon as you try and turn as tight as you got that motor, if you turned it, it would try and like skip up off of that transom, or you fold it back down, you try and drive, and there's any waves, and the thing's just like flopping around. Like, there's no way to secure it flat down to the bow of the boat with a mount like that. So we never really, unless it was calm flat, and Jesse would sit in the front getting splashed with waves trying to hold it so it wouldn't like bounce off. So it wasn't very enjoyable to use. It got us through the year. It got us through the year. And so when I had a bit of money come in, I, not a lot, but I was like, you know what? This is enough to buy myself a bow mount trolling motor. I picked that up.
Game changer. Game changer.
Amazing. Now, again, so the first time I put that on, I was actually disappointed. I was like, I put it on, and I was like, oh no. Like, I started to use it. Like, this is terrifying. Because it's a 55-pound thrust. I wanted to keep it at 12 volts. 55-pound thrust trolling motor. Now, again, my boat is flat bottom. It comes to a point. It's not a John boat, but it is flat bottom. So, again, there's not a V-hull. There's not much draw in the water. So I had the trolling motor. It's got a settings of like 1 to 5 foot control. So I turned it up. I was on 3, and I was kind of figuring out. So I'm like, I just want to swing the front end to the right. So I turned it so the motor's pointing right. I clicked the button on the manual mode, and it almost threw me overboard. Yeah, the thing just like just skipped right to the side, and there's a bit of chop, and I'm trying to balance on one foot and get my other foot on the pedal. Like, this is unusable. Like, this is ridiculous. I got more used to it. Now it's a lot. I'm getting more comfortable with it. But one thing I want to do, I want to put a seat,
pedestal seat,
just so I have another point of contact to lean against. So it is a lot safer to use. Again, we always wear our life jackets. We have inflatable life jackets.
Yeah.
So we always have those on regardless in the boat. Worst case scenario, but I don't want to fall in the drink, especially if it's like a cold fall or spring day.
Yeah. And I have to say, you got it's a bow mounted trolling motor that controls. It takes a little bit of getting used to.
Yeah.
But I did notice, like, we went to this one lake that we love, and it's full of stumps.
And the one with rocks, like the one that's like big rocks, randomly places, and you have to weave your way through like a
You were
maze.
doing a good job just weaving through. We didn't hit that many things. But a bow mount trolling motor is a game changer. And in fact, I was just telling Andrew, because like I'm planning on building a similar boat like this next year. And I'm thinking of getting a 12 or hopefully a 14-foot aluminum. And my first purchase is going to be a bow mount trolling motor. Mm-hmm. And then I'll put my 2.5 horsepower on the back, even though it'll be dead slow. I still fish small lakes.
It's a fishing platform.
I'd rather have a bow mount trolling motor first than like a 9.9 or a 15 on the back.
Yeah.
And the bow mount trolling motor that Andrew got, what is it? The Minn Kota?
It's the Minn Kota Edge.
55-pound thrust, which is perfect for a small, small tinner.
Yep.
And it's a great little boat.
Pushes it really well. It was pretty windy conditions. Even with the wind, we were moving along pretty good at setting 4.
Yep.
And I have I think it's a 120 amp hour lead acid battery that ran us all day long.
Yep.
On with that motor. So I did want to keep it in the 12 volt range because I don't want to have the need to have 2 batteries on my small tinner at all times. So I made my first hatch in the boat, which is a big step for me.
Yeah.
Because it's been just the base seats essentially still to this day. So I just cut in my first hatch in the one bench seat so I could have my electronics, which I'm just starting to wire in. So the battery now sits in there. I have a full disconnect. So when I'm not using it, nothing is drawing power. and I wired in a breaker, inline breaker,
Which you need.
which you need because I don't want to fry my brand new motor.
Yeah.
And then I extended the wiring up to the front, and I installed a plug. So I remove my motor all the time because, again, living in the GTA, it's too many guys with their motor stolen.
Yeah.
So I got mine. I got the quick release mount, so I can just pull out the posts, and the motor comes off. Weighs it's a pain in the butt, but I just store it at the front door.
Yeah.
Don't rob my house.
Yeah. If you want Andrew's address, please send me a direct message on Instagram.
But I wanted to be able to take it on and off, so I installed the plug as well instead of having to undo bolts and stuff like that. So it's a lot easier now to plug and play.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. I also have plans, which I have the stuff. I need to get a little bit more wiring, some other butt connectors.
But
you said connector. I have a 5-switch gang panel that's going to be controlling the navigation lights I'm going to be installing. It's going to have some interior lights for if I'm night fishing and stuff like that. Again, when I go out, I don't make a habit of that, but if I'm camping and whatnot, I love to go out in the evening if I'm on the lake.
Yeah.
So to have some interior lighting that I can turn on and off, I might have a spotlight. It's going to have USB charger. It shows my amperage, so I can keep an eye on where the battery is at.
Yeah.
I'm also going to have some, again, the rear navigation light. I'm looking to get a YOLO Tech stick so we can do our recording on the boat and have that GoPro charging so we can record as much as we want. So there's a few different things that I will still be doing with the electrical. As of right now, I just have the motor kind of rigged up.
Mm-hmm.
But there are some more things coming down. I did install also a little patch of wood in front of the front seat to create like a small front casting deck. So I needed something to more space than just standing on the seat, which Jesse's been doing and balancing pretty good for the past 2 years on it.
Yeah.
So there's a little deck storage that way.
The point too is slowly.
Yeah, this has all been paced.
You buy this boat and you can build it at your own pace, and mostly for me it would be build it at your own budget.
Yeah,
because like
I can't afford it all right away.
If you had to build this all at once, it seems more expensive. But if you can spread it over 2 or 3 years, it's not as bad. You're like spend the same time or same amount of money, but over 3 years it seems a lot less. You know, like your pocketbook is just stabbing you in the butt.
And right now too, like the wood is still bare wood, like that I've been installing. I do have plans to get it carpeted. Right now it's just the bare wood. And I will be, sealing and stuff like that as well, just to make sure it's all nice. I don't want to have to replace it in 5 years. I'd rather replace it in 20 years.
Yeah.
So
you'll be dead.
There's more
trolling motor accident.
There's a lot more that has to be done on the boat. But like Jesse said, and like I mentioned before, I'm glad I didn't just go gung ho and deck the whole thing right away. So one of the things I noticed with that boat is 14 feet is a lot bigger than I was used to, than being in canoe, and then being a wider boat that I can stand in. There was no good place to put rod storage, unfortunately. Like in-deck storage for rods, like a rod locker, is awesome, but I don't have the availability for that. Where do I put the paddle I need to have in the boat? I had a neighbor, actually. I did a little work at his place for him, so he gave me a couple of his old oars. So I got the old oars. They sit in the back of the boat. I made a couple mounts for them to slide into. Again, just out of plywood. I strap them down so they're not going to come out at all when I'm bouncing around or during travels. What else have I done to the boat? Again, like just little things. Again, super budget. Yeah. All the stuff I've gotten for either like bartering or I just make it myself. Yeah. Pick up some scrap wood and use it.
It's also handy that, we have a workshop to work in and a lot of tools.
I have tools and stuff like that.
So like if you don't have that, it may be more difficult. So it may be a better deal for you to buy a boat that someone is selling that is ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
The cool thing with me building this boat though is it's going to be, when it is completed, it's going to be exactly what I want for this boat. You know, it's going to fit all my criteria that I want in a 14-foot tin boat that I can tow with my car. I'd love to have something bigger, but I drive an Elantra. I can't be launching a 16-foot boat I couldn't pull out of even proper boat launches. Even with this one, I have to be careful. It has to be a concrete launch. I can't pull it out in gravel. Even like packed gravel, it's not going to work.
Well, we learned our lesson.
Yes, we did. That was terrifying.
That being said, say you build this up and in the future you get something bigger, you can sell it as a package.
Yeah. So it has been really cool to build it. And again, I'm starting to put hatches in where I know I can make use of them. Changing out my decks, changing how the layout is going to be on the decking, how it's going to move, how it can be modular, all this stuff. Like, I love being able to plan it out, take my time with it. And had I done everything in the first year, I would be so upset with the layout of that deck. I'd have to rip it all out and redo it, just like I'm doing now. So being able to have a project and something to do on the side is really fun. Like, it's
satisfying.
It's very satisfying.
Yeah. And you can get some really good ideas. Like, if you go on YouTube, Tiny Boat Nation, the boats that guy builds are insane. Oh, the only thing I have to say with his boat builds is, in Canada, like the guys in the States, in Canada, the price of like aluminum and wood and stuff, his boat builds would cost literally $15,000. Yeah. So as much as I watch his videos, I'm like, I get some ideas on what I'd like to do my boat, but we'd have to do it up here a lot cheaper, because what he does is he makes boats and he does them professional. They're better than factory boats.
Oh yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
And he has all these hatches and LEDs and live wells, and it all looks, it's all custom made. It's amazing. Very, very, very expensive. That's just what he does. He makes really nice John boats and aluminum boats. What we're doing here is more of a super budget version. So it's more like 2x4s and not aluminum. But it still works. Yeah. The fish don't care what your boat's made of. Yeah. You know, unless it's sharks and they're looking to attack you. But yeah, that's it. You know, like we always say, you know, we wish we could have like a bass boat. Yeah. I mean, like, realistically speaking, that'll never happen. We're millennials. Generally, most millennials can't afford a house, let alone a bass boat. But for the lakes that we fish, it's just like some of the lakes we wish we could fish. Like Lake Simcoe, I wish I could fish that lake. But in Andrew's boat, it's not going to happen. No. So all you have to do is buy the boat, the biggest boat you can buy on your budget without literally going in debt forever. Yep. And then choose the lakes you can fish after that. Like, do you ever feel at a disadvantage? Like, you know, I wish we could fish Bay of Quinte or Lake Simcoe or like Lake St. Clair, but in your boat, we can fish like so many like smaller lakes that aren't as popular and have great days going out catching fish. Yep. And we fish a lot of lakes that guys in bigger bass boats, they won't even go in. Like, we fish this one lake that's full of stumps and rocks, and no one will go there. I tell my buddies who has like a bigger, like almost like a bass boat, and he's like, I won't put my boat in there. I was like, dude, I caught a bunch of 4-pounders the other day, and he's like, I won't go in there. Yeah. I was like, it's not even that bad. He's like, my boat there. He's like, fiberglass, I'm not going in there. And like, we have phenomenal days. And like, I'm not saying you'll catch more fish in a tin boat than a bass boat. I know a lot of people that can't afford a bass boat are like, you don't need a bass boat. It's like, well, you can't afford one, so obviously you're going to say that. But admittedly, the skill of a fisherman doesn't depend on what boat he has. It will give you some advantages. You'll be able to blast to a spot faster, and you know, you have a bigger platform. It's more enjoyable, but you can catch fish out of a tin boat. No problem.
And two things too that I'd like to mention is my wife has been very understanding with all of this, and one of the big reasons why is I made it a goal, or I didn't want to be in debt for this boat at all. Yeah. So everything that I put into it, the only thing that I've purchased with money I've made at my day-to-day job has been the trolling motor. Yeah. Everything else up to this point, buying the boat, which was Jesse actually gifted me. He had the tools, so he gave me the boat, buying the trailer, buying the motor, buying the wood, buying all the electronics, stuff like that, has all been financed by our dear Patreon. No, I'm just kidding. Been financed by me doing odd jobs for friends and family and neighbors and stuff like that. Yeah. So I didn't have the funds, don't have the savings to be able to drop $3,000, what I paid now for this thing in total at one time. I had to do it over time. So that's been cool because I'm doing it in stages. As soon as I can afford the next little step, okay, now I buy that stuff, I can do it. It's awesome. Yeah. So I've been held back from doing it all in one go financially as well. So the cool thing is you can, again, once it was floating and there were seats on it, I've been able to fish out of this thing the entire time I've been building it up.
Yeah, you don't have to wait till it's completely done. You're fishing out of it as soon as it floats. You have a motor on it, you can fish out of it. Yeah.
And the other thing I was going to mention is we have... I just lost it. Keep talking, Jesse.
We're going to kind of wrap up this episode. And I know we kind of went all over, like, this is more like Andrew's story of his boat. But the main moral of this story is you can build a boat that is completely fishable for a budget price. Yeah. Boats are not cheap. Even a budget boat build, like, you may be like, oh, $3,000, I make that in a day. That's amazing. Good for you. But for the most people that maybe, just are weekend warriors, if you want to get a completely fishable boat, you can build one for a few $1,000s.
Yeah. That's what I was going to mention actually is the reason why I did buy a brand new trolling motor is because I wanted something that I knew 100% would work. I don't want to have any issues with it. It's got a good trolling motor. I don't have electronics as for a fish finder or navionics or any of that stuff on the boat right now. Jesse will bring his fish finder with us when we go out.
Yeah.
But we know we can't afford front-facing sonar or anything like that. But
It would
eventually,
cost more than his whole boat and trailer.
100%. Well, like I said, the trolling motor itself, not including the batteries for it, which I got a good deal on those, but the motor itself cost as much as I paid for the boat 20 horsepower motor and trailer combined.
Yeah.
So, but the reason why I did that is the trolling motor I can take off and put on anything else. If this boat just like blows up and I run into a log and the whole thing cracks in half and my motor just like disintegrates the bottom half of it, I can take the trolling motor I just bought and put that on the next thing.
Yeah.
When I get electronics, I don't want to buy something that's like super budget. That's where I'm going to be investing the money in. That I know 100% these bolt-on additions, which will help me catch more fish and give me more control and more usability, they're going to be the most expensive part of this boat build. If I save up and I can save up to spend, $2,000 on a nice, fish finder, I'll do that because I know I can take that fish finder and put it on a bass boat if I ever get it. That's completely fine.
You're going to get a bass boat?
I'm not. I'm just saying. Like, it doesn't bother me to have, some people it might sound silly. Oh, like, why are you putting a gold ring on the nose of a pig? Like, the thing is, I'll spend money where it's going to actually matter. And the boat, it floats. The motor that pushes it, it runs.
Yeah.
The stuff that's going to help me catch fish, that's what I need to spend more money on. That just gets me in the water. The stuff that's going to get me in front of that 5-pound smallie is sonar, is a trolling motor that can get me, hold me on that spot. So that's the stuff that I will be in the future as I can afford it. I do have some bigger plans for the boat, but those are no longer essentially the budget options. That's me. I want to make sure that when I spend money, it's on something that is good. I'd rather save up, buy something good once than buy something to get me by until I can get what I really want. That's just a waste of money in my mind.
Yeah. There's no sense buying something, they're saying buy once, cry once.
Yeah.
There's no sense buying something cheap that you're going to have to replace eventually.
Yeah.
Unless you literally can't afford it at the time. Like, I get it. But anyway, and one thing that I'd like to mention very briefly is nothing against kayak fishing. Love kayak fishing. It's amazing. If kayak fishing seems like expensive to you, compared to buying a bass boat, it's dirt cheap. But I looked into getting a kayak and like one with like a little motor on it and all this stuff, or like pedal drive. You're looking at like $5,000, $6,000, $7,000.
Yep.
Just a food for thought. You could buy a fully functional boat with a 20 horsepower engine for the same price.
Yeah.
And you're not in a kayak.
Yeah.
Again, being in a kayak is magical. It's cool. But if you're older or you want to take someone else out, you can have a boat.
This 14-foot tinner, I'm building to be a small leg 2-man bass boat.
It is.
And it's going to be perfectly geared to do so.
Until you see the one that I build. 100%.
Then we'll have tournaments with each other.
We're actually going to have tournaments with each other. Actually, we're hoping to have small craft tournaments in the future. Possibly next year, where you have to have literally a boat with 20 horsepower or less.
It's capped at 20 because that's what I have.
Yeah.
And I want to fish it.
Kayaks, canoes can enter, whatever, but it's only small boats. And it'll be like just for fun. But we'll talk about that more later. But anyway, this is a cool episode. So I'm going to say this. If you have any questions about Andrew's boat, message him on AOA Andrew on Instagram.
AOA_Andrew.
Yeah, and he'll be more than happy to talk to you, because like there's so many little details we couldn't get. This podcast would be like 5 hours long if we talked about every process and stuff of doing the build.
Or even if you have done a boat build yourself, or something that you would recommend that I would install on my boat, or something that like, hey, you know what, these lights worked really well, or this worked really well for your boat, let me know. Or any tips on wiring, because I'm going to be doing a fair bit more once I get the other stuff hooked up on it.
But it's a cool podcast. This is one that I've wanted to do for a while, because again, this has been like a 2-year slow project, and especially
we've been promising more content about it since the day we got the boat.
Yeah, it's true. But we'll post some more stuff. Like I have a lot of stories that we did. We took stories of like videos of the build over the years. As this podcast is coming out, I'll post more of those stories on our Instagram. So again, I'd like to mention to everyone, if you are listening to this podcast and you don't follow us on Instagram, that is where we post a lot of our content, mostly every day. Average Ontario Anglers on Instagram. We also have a YouTube channel, Average Ontario Anglers on YouTube. We also would like to thank everyone who downloads this podcast. We hit, I forget the exact number, but it's over 2,000 downloads per week. That's pretty insane.
Yeah.
I always say to Andrew, I'm like, it's funny that people find us slightly entertaining enough because like they're downloading it. 2,000 a week plus YouTube, it's like 2,500 a week. Listen to me and Andrew, randomly talk about random things about fishing. But we do appreciate it. Again, we're going to mention we do have a Patreon if you'd like to support the expenses. Recording this show, here's the reality of it. Recording this show every week, there are expenses that come up with that. We do appreciate, we have a bunch of patrons right now. If you want to leave us a $2 tip, that would be amazing. We put it all towards the cost. We're not just buying random stuff with it. So we do appreciate that. The link below is in the show notes. Okay. So anyway, this is episode 25 of the Average Ontario Anglers podcast.
Yeah, you won't start donating money to Patreon and then all of a sudden it's like, well, we just bought Live Scope. It's more like, well, this is actually, barely covering itself now.
We appreciate it all. Again.
Yeah, it's awesome. And we like the reason why we're still going, we are really enjoying doing this podcast too.
Yeah.
And to get the feedback from you guys, again, like the good reviews, like the stuff on Instagram messages.
It keeps us going.
Yeah. And we meet people in public and stuff, and they're like, oh yeah, I love your podcast. Like, that's awesome. That alone, like, kind of makes it a lot worth it, Yeah. It's been fun.
Actually, it's funny, quick story. The other day we were at some place and 3 random people came up to me and were like, hey, I listened to your podcast, and I have no clue who they were.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, sweet. Thanks.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's funny because a couple times I've taken friends because they're like, oh, I want to get a new fishing rod and can you help me pick one out? I'm like, sure. Like, we'll go, we'll talk. And again, I'm not an expert on it, but I have more experience than them. So I'll offer what I can to help maybe. But, I went to the local tackle shop and the whole time I'm there, there's, I think, 3 people. I was there for like 15 minutes and the 3 different people are talking to me that aren't just the employees who recognize me. They're like, oh man, you're Andrew, right? Oh, I love the podcast. Like, oh, you guys, I see you on Instagram. That's awesome, man. And they, they talk for a little bit. And the people I'm with just like look at me like who are you? It's like, I'm, getting popular. It's fun though.
If you ever see us in public, definitely come up and say hi. Yeah. A lot of people have been like, oh, I saw you and I didn't want to say hi. You looked busy. We're not busy. Even if we look busy, we're not busy.
If I'm in a fishing store, it's like, yeah, I have time.
Yeah. Anyway, thanks for listening. Again, please leave us a review. And this was episode 25 of the Average Ontario Anglers podcast. We'll see you next week.